Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hadeen, no longer owner of Illustrious Hardwoods in Mesa, Arizona, although I am still a licensed contractor. This is big news. This hasn't been talked about on the podcast. I'm at Tice. We're doing this live from Tice. I have decided to close my business, and I am putting all of my effort into this. So I appreciate everyone's support over the years. But we're gonna get into this. So again, we are live from the International Surfaces event today. I am sitting down with Cody Cox of Cox Tile in San Antonio, Texas. Everything's bigger and better in San Antonio, Texas, and their company is bigger and better. They're five-star contractor. But we're gonna talk about delegating. And there is some really toxic internet culture out there. Look, I like Gary Vee as much as the next guy. Although when he's out on the internet telling you, hey, hustle, 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 I'll outwork you. I'm going to work 18 hours a day. I'll go harder than anybody else. I bet you do. And I know you do. But you know what? If I can hire somebody to add 8 hours to my day and take 8 hours off my plate, I've now got my 18 hours a day plus their 8 hours. I'm at 26 and you're only at 18. Let me scale that. I'm going to hire 5 people at 8 hours a day. I've now got 40 hours in a day, which is an entire week for most people, plus my 18. I'm at 58 times 5. There's 250. That's 290 hours in a week. So, I am way going to outwork you through delegation. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit over the next hour or so as we talk with Cody. We'll have him introduce himself in a second. He's got a little bit of a storied past here. He didn't know if he wanted to be a part of the family business or not, went another direction, ended up in it, found some passion, looking to grow Cox Tile. And so delegation is going to be something that he has to do here moving forward. Before we get started, if you are looking for an affordable and easy way to manage your flooring business, Cronus Flooring software is your solution. You can streamline your workflow for managing leads, inventory, and scheduling installations. It includes every feature needed to support your business at an affordable price. It's extremely user-friendly, easy to navigate, 100% cloud-based, so you can access it from anywhere, no servers needed. Full integration with QuickBooks so that you can do your invoicing and stay up to date and know your profitability, which is, if you know this show, we're all about profitability, baby. You can visit cronusoft.com. That's KRONUSSOFT and schedule a demo. Let them know that I sent you over their way, and they will take great care of you. Built by a flooring business to solve actual flooring business needs. Cronusoft has your solutions. They will help you with more than the software. If you want to talk with the owner who owns 4 retail stores, he's going to sit down. He's going to talk to you about owning retail stores or owning your installation business. He's going to help you out more than just software. Go check him out. That's enough from me. I'm going to stop. Cody, who are you? What do you do? And why do you do it?
So first off, thank you for having me. Love being on here. Been a follower for a while. You and I met at a Schluter event, Mind Your Business, which is a business-minded event. But love being here. My name's Cody Cox, like you said, in San Antonio, Texas. A little bit of my story, like you mentioned, is I grew up in the business. I started, roughly when I was 8 years old, when I could start sweeping with a broom, and I was on the job site. Holidays, I was on the job sites, and I was always given the worst job. I was shoveling sand 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, because that was my role. And I'll be honest, I hated it. It was awful.
Dad didn't pull any punches.
No,
Good for him.
I was in the trenches. And nowadays I have a much greater appreciation. I'll be the first one to go pick up a shovel. It matters not to me. I've been in the trenches and I've been in the high road. It doesn't matter. I'm happy to be on site. But so I went to college thinking I wanted to be a physical therapist. I did my undergrad, and in between applying to grad schools, my father said, hey, come work for me, make some money in the meantime, blah, blah, blah. Perfect. All right, so I went, and it's like, okay, well, once I started interacting with the clients, being able to manage the crews, being able to actually problem solve and use my brain, it was like, holy cow, I really enjoy this. This is fun. And then it came down, it's like, okay, if you're going to commit, it's a 156% commitment. We're not standing by. If you're going to do it, you're doing it, and you're doing it full bore. And so that was the start to say, okay, this is something I want to do. It's been about 6 years now, and I love every second of it. I love the tile industry. I love the people. I love the people who are trying to help others. The industry in and of itself is just a wonderful thing, and I love it. So happy to be here and happy to help anybody else who can.
That's awesome. It sounds like Dad conned you. It sounds like he sent you off to college to have you go experience that and be like, I don't like this. Like working for Dad's better.
Well, I'll tell you
The
what,
opposite.
pretty expensive dupe though. I'll say that he picked up the ticket on that, but I got duped. But I'm happy where I am. And so one of the main things, and this is just for his background, is one of the main reasons that I wanted to be part of the industry is, I mean, his knowledge and his mind is, in my mind, superior and very, very vast. I mean, he oozes knowledge and he loves to spread it. So I sat there thinking, I have potentially the best mentor I could possibly have. I'd be silly not to at least expand or try to see what
Okay.
this route is involved.
So was there forcing you to be in the trenches? Was that a like passion building thing for him? Was he trying to get you to see everything involved from step A to step Z through a project so that you weren't the spoiled boss's kid and you learned to appreciate the actual artisanship behind it?
I think it was multi-pronged. I think that was definitely a driving force. But he even says this today. He said, my goal was never to push him into the business. If he wanted to do it, that's his own accord. That's his own agenda.
Okay.
But my father never took the role of, hey, I want you to learn this so that way you can learn the business. So for that, it's also, I have a lot of appreciation to say, I never was pushed in any direction. I chose this. And because I chose this, now I want to really dive in and do the best that I possibly can. So
Definitely.
so that was a kind of a door that he left a little bit open to say, if you want it, it's there, but that's your choice. But if you're going to make that choice, you need to commit. And you need to commit down to your very last down to your bones, because as anybody in this industry knows, if you don't love it, you're gonna hate it.
Yes, for sure. There's no in between.
No.
It's one way or the other. You're either all in or you want to be all out.
Yep.
So you recently, where did the management stuff start, right? So you were doing labor stuff before college, and then you went off to college, and when you came back, you weren't thrown into the field, you were thrown in the office, or were you kind of learning both ends? At what point did you kind of really get into like leading teams and crews and doing that?
Perfect question. So it was first getting back in or getting into the groove. It was, you need to learn everything. And then as we realized soon enough that I can't learn everything all the time. So I have what I call quarterly pushes. Every quarter I'll decide, hey, I need to learn more on accounting, or I need to learn more on this. And so for the first 2 years, I did my quarterly pushes to say, okay, where is a good fit? What does the business actually need? Because a lot of people have seen, the SOBs, the sons of bosses, they get thrown into the mix into a position that they're not ready for, or that they're not actually able to excel at. So I needed to define my role to say, where can I actually bring value to the business? Otherwise, I'm just as likely to be fired as anybody else.
Yeah.
So I had to explore a lot of different roles. I love being in the field. It's a blast. I mean, that's the heart and soul of why everybody does what we do. So it was investigating where in the field I can bring value, because our tile setters they'll blow me out of the water 10 days out of the week. I mean, they're much more skilled than I am. They're there every day, and a lot of respect to them because they give their heart and soul to each job. And I can't talk well enough about our installers. I love them. But so is where can I bring value? So the dynamic of our office is very simplistic. We're a smaller company, and there were 2 people in the office when I entered. And the administrator that we had wasn't pulling his weight. So I got to step into that role pretty quickly because it was a need. So whenever I went down that route, it was, okay, let's dive into the estimating. Let's dive into the actual business finances and the actual navigation of how the business operates, and then eventually business development. So that's where I find that I bring a lot of value, is say, hey, let's look at the big picture. What are our goals? How can we get there? Things like that. But I do love being out in the field, man. God, I love being out in the field.
Okay, so you're kind of filling more of a visionary role. You're looking at where you want it to go and how we're going to get it there. And I guess this is where it ties into delegation, because the guy with the vision is generally horrible at implementing. I know, because that's me. Is I have the vision, I just suck at the implementing part and getting it to move forward. I need the team under me, and I can't afford the team yet.
Precisely.
So I guess what has it been like to kind of step in and be like, hey, Dad, I see this and I want to go here. And then he's having to approve it, but then you're going and saying, all right, people, we're going this way now. And how are they responding?
Responding well. And nobody likes change. That's just human nature. No one likes to change, and especially if it makes their life, quote unquote, more difficult. I mean, whether it is more difficult in the beginning or the end or not, that's to be determined, but nobody likes change. So you have to go in with the attitude of, hey, give me your feedback. I need to know what you guys want and how I can help you. I have an idea, yes, but it has to coincide with the values that we already have and what we're already doing. Otherwise, it's bound to fail. No matter what, you could have the best plan on earth, but if you don't have a team behind you that's willing to help you and bring it up together, you're going to fail every single time. And it's brutal. But so the main thing is it's going to our team and saying, okay, these are the goals. This is how I want to get there. How can we get there together? And then through that, then you get to the delegation of, I can't do all this by myself.
Yeah.
I'd love to, but like you said, I'm just like you. I don't have the capabilities. I have my strengths and I've got my weaknesses, and that's not a strength. I know that and I can recognize that. So you need to bring the team together to say, this is how we're going to do it. This may be a new role for you. This may be a new role for you, but this is how it all coincides together for the big picture.
How has it been received from the team members of you stepping in and really starting to lead a new direction as opposed to your father? And again, you're the boss's kid.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a fight at first, or did they, because you did your rounds and you went around learning kind of each department in the company, did they see that you were actively involved, trying to learn, trying to figure out where you could fit in, and they were more open to you and receptive to the change you wanted to push forward?
Exactly like you just said. At first, there was pushback. I mean, as any mental stipulation, the boss's son comes in, most of the time he thinks he's hot stuff, and that's never going to be received well. I went in with the attitude of, hey, I don't know as much as you guys. So I need to double down and I need to learn everything and then some in order to bring the value that in order for my position to be successful. Because anybody can do anything, but if you don't have the knowledge in order to be able to translate it, then you're useless. And then you're the typical boss's son that just wants to go and golf all day, which
Yeah.
I mean I haven't golfed once in 6 years, but but that was the main thing. So there was pushback at first, but when they saw that I was doing things at home, I was reading the TCNA manual at night, I was coming through with notes and asking questions and creating these study groups of just me, and I promoted it every day, every week. Hey guys, got a study group of the TCNA handbook this week, and every week it was just me, and they laughed and they loved, but it grew the respect of he's actively trying.
Yes.
And then I take it back to a Kobe Bryant quote, and he's like, if you put in this many hours so many times in one day, whereas other person is only doing it once a day,
Yep.
the compound effect over 5 years, you're never going to catch up. So that's the mentality that I took is, hey, I need to bust it every day as hard as I can. And that may be even just reading something. It's not necessarily the physical part. I need to bust it and really get this under my belt in order to bring value and to say, hey, yes, guys, I do know what I'm talking about. And I may be young and I may be the boss's son, but this is the value I'm trying to bring for all of us to be successful.
Okay.
And once you get that message across, it's really beneficial. And then everybody can get on the same page.
Well, I think you went and earned the respect. You didn't demand it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the difference, is that you stepped up and you were like, okay, I'm going to show you that I'm willing to do what's necessary to get us where we want to go. I'm going to show you. And then you went and started asking.
Correct.
So now we're out there, we're delegating tasks,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't do it on your own. That's a huge struggle for many a contractor, especially knowing that most businesses are owner operator run,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it's owner and an apprentice, maybe it's owner, apprentice, and one other crew that they really trust after many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of all it ever gets to, because I think as artisans, we all have this attitude of, nobody does it as well as I do. You can't make it as pretty as me, and you did that wrong. Move out of the way, right? Especially when you're like training somebody, you don't have that patience to wait for them to do it because you're like, well, I can just do it in 2 minutes and it's taking you 10. Move, let me get it done. We got to go. We got to get to the next project. We got to make our money.
Hmm.
So, what has it been like trying to learn to delegate tasks out for you and say, like, okay, this is my vision. I want us to go here, but then you have to hand it off. And right, you created this baby and you're like, okay, well, you go raise it for me.
Hmm.
How have you learned to let go?
Ooh, great question. So I actually went backwards in that cycle. I had to convince my father to let go of some of his tasks for me to, so I can be the delegate. So I can do the things and he can delegate onto me. So I know both sides. I've seen someone give it up or give certain tasks and duties, and that was not easy. Definitely a struggle. He's very old school and he knows what he's doing. So I saw that to say, okay, I see your struggles. I see how challenging this is for you because you've done it for 40 years and this is second nature. You don't want someone to see and make mistakes and costing money. Eventually, at the end of the day, these mistakes are costing money.
Yes.
So I saw it in that respect of, okay, let me take these off of your plate. And then therefore, when I can sit there and say, oh, I need to delegate this out to somebody else, I need to farm out this task or whatever, it's a lot simpler because I've seen the challenge of someone who's raised from the inception of the business to say, yes, I trust you to do this and do it correctly. Are you going to make mistakes? 100%. If you continue to make mistakes, then we got issues. But as long as you learn from them and grow, that's what it's all about. That's the only way that a business is successful. So I've seen someone have it taken away from them, as well as now I'm in the position of I'm trying to give. So it's an interesting dynamic, and it's a lot easier because I've seen the true struggle and the pain of I don't want to give this to you, but I have to. And now it's a lot easier for me to do so.
And we were talking yesterday while we were kind of going over this episode, and your dad built the company from the ground up. He's an old school contractor guy, right? He's going to do mud beds, and he knows it all. And
Hmm.
but he's the guy that probably for many years was, well, we done it this way for 20 years, like we're not going to change it. And of course, young Buck's son's got to come in. Come on, Dad, we're going to go do this and that. And then you had to kind of pull it away from him and get him to be receptive of delegating tasks to you. And I think that plays an interesting role in you realize that the business could be so much more, but you had to convince him that it could be and let you to start playing with it. And again, it was his baby, and he grew it, he molded it, he built it from the ground up out of nothing,
Hmm.
except his blood, sweat, and tears. And so it was. I bet you were prying things at some points of like, all right, come on, like, and let alone, I think there's also a dynamic in the delegation of you guys have to learn to look at each other as I don't know your father's name. I'm sorry,
John.
John. Okay,
Yep.
so you got to look at each other as John and Cody. He
Hmm.
can't come in and be like, you're like, hey, Dad, what's going on? I had a client in one of the mastermind groups, and he was always like, oh, my mom, like my mom. And I was like, stop doing that, dude. I was like, you need to call her
Correct.
by her name. And even in front of the clients, you need to do it because you can't set that dynamic. Like you mentally, we have to be work zone.
Correct. You're keeping that relationship together when it's a business. It's a business dynamic. I refer to my father as the boss to everybody in our business all day long. In fact, I get grief from it from a lot of different people, and I don't care because it is a business. And when we're at business, when we are working, we're operating a business. I will get in arguments. Yes, we're gonna fight. We're gonna yell. We're gonna have disagreements. And the part that we can remind, and this is what I've done, I've specifically done this every day when I leave, say, love you, Pop, and I walk out. Doesn't matter if we just got in a yelling argument, just doesn't matter if we had a horrible day.
Yeah.
So that way it's the reminder of, yes, this is the business and the business comes first. And we have to operate as business individuals. But yeah, you're still my father. And yeah, we're going to joke, we're going to laugh, we're going to go get lunch and, have fun. But when it comes down to it, business is business, baby. It doesn't matter who you are.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter if you're the queen of the world. It's a business. If you're not
Yeah.
bringing value, you're not operating the business correctly. Chances are you're going to be gone. I mean, that's it. It goes down to numbers. It goes down to relationships.
Definitely. What's been the biggest struggle in you delegating something out that you've kind of created? Like, what are some of the things that you've had to overcome? And again, for the guy that needs to like trust apprentice to go and set their first backsplash on their own instead of just running the cuts. Is I guess the way that I've talked about it a lot is I stopped trying to train them on everything when I was still doing the installation business and I had them. My test would be I was like, I want you, like, I'm your apprentice today.
Mm-hmm.
You run the show, right? You know what you need to do. Like, you tell me what you need to install this room, and I'm gonna go run everything for you.
Yep.
And when you get stuck, like, I'm gonna help you. But I think that's kind of a test, and I don't know that enough people are doing that. It's like, well, you should already know. Like, go figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
What good is that doing, right? Like, delegation is still leading.
Correct.
And so I guess what kind of things have you struggled with or found that you've got some tips on that can help some of these men and women out there move forward and really start letting go of the reins and holding them a little more loosely?
I think the biggest thing for me, and I realize this obviously with my father running the show for so long, is it's a mental thing that you have to grasp. No one is going to care about the business as much as you. No one cares about the business being as successful as it should be as you will. So you have to understand they're going to give it their all, but their all isn't the blood, sweat, and tears that you're stressing about when you go home and laying in bed at night. That they don't care. And that's fine because they have a role and they have a job to do. So you have to have the mental capacity to say they're going to give it their all in their own way. I need to be there for the guidance and support when things may or may not go right. And as well as people are going to make mistakes and they're going to cost you a lot of money. All we have to do is try and minimize and mitigate those mistakes to where they're productive and they're learning for the long haul to where they don't make those again and they don't eventually cost the business money. But that's the one thing is, and I say this in every interview, I say this to every apprentice, and I say this to every tile setter that are making the transition to the next step. It's you're going to make mistakes and it's going to cost us a lot of money. And I need you to know how much it costs just so that you know that you're not going to make it again. Because that's all it is. And we're not perfect. We're humans.
No, well, actually, I respect that clear communication. I don't think that that's done enough. It's funny because when you talk to these owner operator guys and gals out there, they're like, oh, they screwed up the thing. I have to fire them, right? And it's $5,000. It's a couple grand. It's a couple $100 maybe even, right? They scratched the fridge. I got to fire them. Man, that's a $200 lesson. How much money have you already paid this employee? How many hours have you invested in training them? And you're going to let go of them over a simple mistake that you could have made. Man, there's companies that have kept people on for making $500 million mistakes.
Well, exactly.
And that's a $500 million lesson that I guarantee you they will never, ever make again.
Yep.
And if you fire them, they got to take that $500 million lesson to another company and go add value over there. And I guess, okay, so maybe there's some like, how boneheaded was it stuff going on here that we need to look at?
Correct.
But for the most part, come on. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone screws up. And we can't get rid of everybody every time they make a mistake. I guarantee you that you and whoever is out there listening right now, you made a mistake and somebody let you slide on it.
Oh, I made one recently. It cost us $5,000. I can guarantee you I'll never make it again because it still eats me up to this day. But it's we had to sit back and say, okay, how did it happen? Why did it happen? And is it going to happen again? And the answer to the last one is definitely no. I can tell you that. But it's we're humans. Anything can happen at any point in time. You can't hold someone at fault. The biggest repercussions that we have, it just affects their quarterly bonus. So you're talking something where, if they make a $25,000 mistake, I mean, that's brutal, but it's not going to cost them more than, let's say, $500 per quarter or whatever it is.
I'm coming and working for Cox. Wow, you guys got quarterly bonuses?
Oh, baby, we're in.
Dang, dude, I'm moving.
And that's the one thing that was nice is we can say, hey, you made a mistake this quarter, and it did cost a significant amount of money. So it is going to cost you something small, but it's not going to cost you your check or your job or your livelihood. I mean, how can you feel safe as an employee knowing that your job is at stake with any little mistake? Then you're not going to be productive. You're not going to have free reign to say, let's go out and let's go crush it today. Let's really push the boundaries. You're not going to push anything. You're going to play safe Sally, and you're going to be going slow. And who's really at fault there? Well, the business is going to be at fault. And because the leadership gave that message of if you make mistakes, it's going to cost you dearly. And that's not fair.
you're delegating out the wrong message at that point, right?
Correct.
Yes, I totally get it. So I'm going to interrupt us real quick. We got a quick word from Johns Manville, and then we will get back into it. Compatible with all GoBoard products is the new GoBoard membrane. If you're asking why a membrane when GoProof itself is waterproof through and through, the answer is simple. A membrane extends your GoBoard installation from mud pans, steam rooms, and shared walls requiring a fire-rated board under the new waterproofing. Now who's going to be the most badass GoBoard installer out there? You are. Visit www.jm.com/GoBoard for all the product details. Learn about their generous allowance of other sealants with their product. You can learn about their wedges. They got a pan. All kinds of good stuff going on with GoBoard. Again, jm.com/GoBoard. Okay, Cody. I think that's something that's missed is that you're talking about people are making mistakes and we're having to communicate with them and hold them responsible and let them grow. And I that is a form of delegating in that you're giving them a task and then you're letting them grow within it and then holding them accountable to the standard. And that's something that's missed too, is that I don't know that enough companies have these written down procedures and processes and standards to say this is what's expected of you on the daily and you're not meeting it. And so you delegated out a bunch of tasks as owner operator guy, and I was in the same boat, folks. This is I didn't have all this stuff. I would tell them what I wanted and then it would get met and then I would get frustrated and it would eat me up and I'd want to go scream at them and yell and you're not doing it right, you're not. Except I never gave them a way to know that this is I told them.
The only person you can yell at is the one in the mirror at that point. That's the brutal part. That's the hard part of saying, oh, it goes down to my shoulders of whether it be expectations, communication, any various one of those to say the reason it didn't get met is generally because it wasn't delegated correctly. Whether it be, again, the task, whether it be the communication, the delegation process is key and it has to be fluid and flexible, but also very rigid and defined to say this is the goals, these are the expectations, and this is how we're going to get it done.
What's been I mean I just gave a talk before the podcast and I had two volunteers come up. I was like, I need you to build me a pyramid. And one of them started building it the way I wanted, and it was a 2D pyramid. Like it was just one row straight up. And the other guy starts building it, and he's like putting them all in a big block, and then he was going to start stacking on top. I was like, whoa, hold on, that's not going to work for my demonstration. I needed it the other way, right? Like he was like, oh, so communication, like not working, right? I delegated out a task I wanted accomplished, but I didn't give clear enough instructions, and I think that's what happens most of the time. Is one, most of us were working for somebody when we all of a sudden decided, you're dumb. I think you run your business like crap. I'm going to go do it on my own. So nobody ever taught you leadership. And now you're trying to be a leader and have no clue what you're doing. You have a little bit of a bonus. I think your dad probably built something into you. I can tell just from talking with you, but you were being a part of the NTCA. You just did a young leaders,
emerging leaders, yes,
emerging
sir.
leaders training. How was that? Did that really make a difference in how you looked at the business and handled it it was about 6 months, I think you did it?
It was 6 months installments, yeah. And honestly, it was phenomenal. Thank you to the NTCA for putting that on. I mean, it was a great program. Wally did an amazing job, and it exposed me to the bigger world of how things are operating. Because, I mean, we're a small company. We got, 10 employees, 10 to 15. And it's generally he and I in the office, and obviously I'm looking to expand that, but that's a whole different conversation. But it allowed me to talk with the people from Floor and Decor, talk with Dowtile to say, hey, how are you guys doing these things? How is your leadership operating to say? And then it was a self-reflection of, oh my God, if they can do this grand scale, I'm struggling on a minor scale. Where's the disconnect? So I got to work with these individuals, and I mean, we still talk now, and we help each other. And the whole point of the emerging leaders was, hey, how can we as leaders delegate? That was one of the main topics. delegate, but also stay together in the industry and talk about how the industry can be successful. But it all goes down to delegation, like you said. It's really simplistic.
But what was some of the things that came about out of it? So, what was your attitude within Cox Tile before that? Like, how did you look at leadership and management? And then you were kind of exposed to some bigger business stuff, and you came back, and well, you were there the whole time, but you kept having these
Correct,
meetings
correct.
once a month and working on it. How did that change and evolve to where you're at now? Like, what was beginning Cody like versus how you're approaching it now?
Easy. Before that program, it was everything's personal. It's a one-on-one. We can manipulate everything on the small scale. I can go talk to this individual, communicate the issues, communicate the goals, whatever, and that'll get done. Whereas upon entering this program, it's some of these people have 150 individuals that are underneath them that they have to manage. Well, you can't talk to 150 people and be successful. That's not reality. You have to think about it in grand scale of, okay, what is the actual flow chart of tasks, duties, responsibilities, and communication? Because again, in my own little world before the program is, well, it's all right there. I can talk to this person, it's done. Whereas, in the corporate world, you may have to talk to 6, 7 different people in order to get something accomplished. So it's realizing that you have to think, especially if you want to grow a business to something of that scale, you have to think grand scale up front in order to be successful down to the minute and down to the specific details.
The tasks have to get delegated out, and it starts, if we're going to look at it, okay, so if Cody's part of the C-suite level, right, like dad's CEO, and maybe he's like vice president or what, like, so we're going to have the executives up top, and they have to communicate ideas to their vice presidents, who communicate it to the managers, who communicate it to the team leads, who communicate it to the people doing the work and making and generating the revenue and making it happen.
Correct.
And within all of that, this task has to be clearly communicated all the way down. And again, I think this is where the small business struggles, is we don't realize that we need this. Oh, we're only a company of 10. I'll go talk to each person individually and make it happen.
Exactly.
Or we can hold one meeting and have it all done at once and get everybody on the same page. Like, it's not, even if it's something that only one person needs to know, the change you make to that one person is going to affect what somebody else is doing, whether you realize it at first or not.
Absolutely.
Everyone needs to be aware of what's happening and the direction the company's going and changes being made. And I think that's missed a lot. I think from you stepping in to see what you're doing with it now from where dad had it on his own, is there a difference in how these things are going? Like, I'm going to guess that dad got by with delegating, but it was very minimal, and he probably held on to too much, because most of us do. Again, we just don't want to let it go. And so he had the crews, but he probably still did way too much and was coming home late at night and still slaving away doing paperwork and making it happen.
Absolutely. All growing up, that's what I remember. And he was building the business, so all credit to him, because I mean, when you're building a business, I mean, there are no days off, as anybody knows. There are no, oh hey, I went golfing today. That doesn't happen in the first, I don't know, 5 years. But it was really interesting for him because the way he did things and the way he operated, and you're gonna laugh, it's a very small detail. His memory is phenomenal. He has the memory of an elephant. It's literally incredible. My memory sucks. I don't know if I played too much football, dropped on my head, whatever you want to call it. My memory sucks. So my style of communicating, my style of having these job reports and these binders of this is all the information is completely different. Whereas he just remembers stuff and he can spit it out at any point in time.
Yeah.
I don't have that capability. So the dynamic of, hey, everything's kind of got to be shifted and put on paper and there and available all the time for referencing and whatnot. We post up on the walls of the jobs, whereas he just remembers. So I don't have that skill.
That's all fine and dandy, but he's not communicating it out with anybody else. And herein lies the problem: is now we're building a legacy company as opposed to owning a job that he grew into a very, very big job.
Yep.
What happens if he's driving home one day, God forbid, and he gets T-boned? Right now, who knows what? Because everything's up here with John,
Exactly.
but nobody else knows. So It's letting it go and finding a way to communicate it. And you're right, like it has to be in these books. I have to have it accessible, and Bob from accounting needs to be able to find it just as much as Enrique, the installation guy, needs to be able to come and find it and know what's going on.
Correct. And for him, his memory was so good, he could spit it all the time. So the downfall of that is he would tell someone, 6, 7 different things. Well, they remember 3 maximum. And so, then there's the disconnect of, there's frustration because something didn't get done, whether it be memory or whatever. So it's saying, yeah, we got to have things down. And to your point of, anything could happen at any point in time. He makes the jokes of, whenever I'm abducted by aliens, which we think it happened a long time ago, but whenever he's abducted, what's going to happen? Do we have a plan to where we can still be successful as a business if the brain is gone? So it's the first challenge is extracting. I mean, that's a challenge in and of itself, just because there's so much information, and extracting from people who don't want to be extracted from is difficult, but it's, hey, let's have a plan. Let's have a designated, delegated plan to where if something gets knocked out, we have a plan going forward to where my tasks get delegated here, your tasks get delegated here, and we have a plan of succession going forward that's going to be potentially successful.
It's looking down the road long term, and I don't know that happens enough, let alone just in general. Again, small businesses don't generally document the stuff. Oh, it's just me and another guy. We don't need that.
Yep.
Yes, you do.
Exactly.
You need the employee handbook. You need the safety data sheets to like know if somebody gets hurt and gets the stuff in their eye, what to do. Like, you still got to run the legit business because look, folks, it's really really easy. I'm gonna break this down so simple for you. Even if you're running a sole proprietorship, which you shouldn't be, go form an LLC and protect yourself a little bit at the bare minimum.
Amen.
You form something and you probably have a DBA, does business as, so that you can accept checks besides, in your name. So does business as. You have a business. You have to learn how to run the business, please.
Run it as a business too, not run it hey, I got a check, I'm gonna take out cash and then it is a business. You need a business format with a business plan.
It's not just the trade anymore. You filled out paperwork to make this more serious. You need to take it more serious, and I'm sure it's been hard for your dad, especially looking at it now again, building a legacy company and trying to hand things off. 40 years is a long time to build something, and now you're trying to find ways to, at some point, he should be able to step away. And I don't know how involved your brother is. I know he's there.
Brother? I don't have any
No,
brothers.
I thought
Nope.
you had a brother.
Nope, just me.
Different company.
Nope.
Okay, but even still, to hand it down to okay, I'm now trusting you.
Yep.
To take this over and hopefully grow it and make it bigger and better than it was, as opposed to run it into the ground.
Yep.
And there's a lot of trust there, but there's also a lot of paperwork that needs to be built into place. And what is Dad actually doing right now? What things does John do to move the business, and who needs to step into these roles, and how and when, and what are the timelines? Are we trying to accomplish it in a year, 5 years, 10 years? And so how do we start looking at that and start delegating out these tasks throughout the business and hiring the appropriate people to bring in and do it? And this is all relevant for anybody, again, that's on an owner operator, maybe you got an apprentice level. How are you building them up to either get them out on their own or to go run a crew on their own? Like, what are you needing to build? And then to take it back to, like, you need to take notes. I think a lot of people think they need to build all this stuff on their own time. Like, I need to go home and I need to start writing down my, standard operating procedures and what I want done in a day. I'll tell you what, buy your apprentice a notebook, give it to him, and when you start telling him tasks and directions, you have him write it down. He'll build you his employee manual and training guide himself, and then you have it for the next guy.
He'll do it subconsciously. He doesn't even realize he's doing it, but he's creating his own manual.
Yeah.
So all of our tile setters have a standard spiral notebook, and all of our apprentices have a spiral notebook that's pocket size. So they can do things on, nice and quick on the fly, and then the setters have all the bulk of the information. But it's one of the challenges and one of the things my father's done. I mean, he's a goofy dude. We love him. He's funny. He makes jokes, but he plays chess while everyone else is playing checkers, and you never realize it until the end. So he'll say, hey, type up this report. I want you to include this, that, or whatever, and this is how I want it to look. So I'll go through and I'll do what I, blah, 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 type it up, and I'll present it to him and say, hey, here it is, and he'll look at it and say, okay, good, now go do it 12 times. Because he said, he said, hey, show me that you have the capability of doing it. Let's do it on something that's not going to cost us any money. And then once we perfect it, then we can go out and perform. And then you sit back and you say, holy cow. So you just had me create the manual of how to do that. Then with the form of delegation on who's going to get it done. And then you look back and say, oh, it's done. And he's like, uh-huh, yeah, it is. And you didn't even realize you were doing it. Same thing as the apprentices. You didn't even realize you were making this manual or making this information pamphlet or this document that's going to be foolproof because we've already tested it out.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to use carrying forward. But you didn't even know you were doing it because you just thought you were doing something that was normal.
It's all of that. Plus, I think a lot of times within organizations, we'll have a meeting, we communicate ideas out, and then it's like, okay, everyone put your hand in, all right, and go, break. And everyone goes and does their thing, and then you meet back in a month, and you're like, all right, where's everybody at? Well, but you weren't supposed to do that. They were supposed to do that, and now we don't have this part of it. And so recommunicating, right? And so I'm going to have a meeting with you in person. We're going to go over it all.
Mhm.
I'm going to go back. I'm going to send you an email now and say, hey, just to follow up, like, this is what's expected of you. This is what's expected of me. This is what's expected of Sharon. And then everyone's on the same page. They can't argue it, and it's been recommunicated, or someone can reply to it and now say, oh, I missed that. Thank you for clarifying. Or, oh, I thought this, or what if we add this or change? Like, now everyone can stay on the same page, and it wasn't just, well, I heard this, so that's what I went and did. And again, I can go back to that pyramid example. Like, to me, like, I just need a pyramid. Like, quick, just stack the blocks up. It's like, oh, I want to make this intricate 3D model of
with a window in there, and it's like, well, I didn't communicate a window, and little did you know, the collaborative effort has a lot of different values that could be brought, but you didn't know that. So unless you're constantly checking up, for example, for us, we have meetings Monday and generally Wednesdays because we have trainings on Wednesdays, and then chances are we're having meetings on Friday. I don't know where the boss is. He may be doing whatever, but I mean, he's there every day. Get real. But we have meetings, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Then, progress reports. Granted, yes, we have pictures. We look at the daily progress reports, things like that. But it's bringing everybody collective to say, okay, are we still all on the same page? And then if you have one that says something and say, oh, okay, well, let's bring it back in. Let's make sure everybody's on the same page. Is everybody okay with their tasks? Is everybody okay with their responsibilities? And if someone said, hey, maybe I'm overwhelmed or I'm not doing this correctly. Okay, well, let's figure out if we can need to delegate it. Let's figure out if maybe we're just not thinking it correctly or what the situation is in order to perform and be successful.
How long have the meetings been going on? I think a lot of times, especially if you start reaching a company of your size and people want to put meetings in place, and it's like, we're going to do a safety meeting every Monday, and we're going to do a training every Wednesday, and we're going to do this. And you hear about it, and then the guys all grumble, oh, meetings, oh, that sucks. I just want to go do work and do my job and get home, and this is stupid. And you might do it for like a week, and then you stop. And then 6 months later, you're like, oh, we're gung-ho. We're going to communicate better. We're going to do meetings.
Exactly.
How long did it take you to get them so that they were actually every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday consistently, and you've done it longer than 6 months, if not a year or more at this point?
So for the Monday meetings, those have always been in place since I can remember, 10 years old. On Mondays, we always had a meeting because that way it just gets everybody on the same page, gives everyone direction. So that's the basis of it. I've implemented the Wednesday meetings. Those are strictly for trainings. We train every Wednesday. If you're not the sharpest tool in the shed, you're not going to get used. And if you don't get used, you're going out in the field, baby, and you're not in the good field. You're gonna get tossed. So that was it difficult to implement? Yes. I started saying, okay, after work we'll do this, and I'll have food, I'll have drinks, water, and sodas. No one needs to drink beer on a Wednesday. But I'll have food, I'll have drinks, and then we'll come back and we'll train. Well, that gets really difficult when it's 110 degrees in Texas and someone's worked all day, and then you tell them, hey, come back to the shop for an hour. I don't want to do that either. That sucks. So was it trial and error? Oh yeah, we tried a lot of different formats. We tried during lunch. That didn't work because everybody's everywhere. Yeah. So we had a lot of trial and error, and it took roughly about 6 months to figure out, okay, If you come in, we're just going to do it in the morning. We're not even going to have breakfast. We're not going to have anything. We'll spend 20 minutes. We don't need any more than that. 20 minutes of training, 10 minutes recap. Are we all on the same page? Are we still doing the same jobs? Yes. And then from there, we go out and we have a great day.
Okay.
And it's in the morning, so it's cool. It's not super hot, anything like that. So, but did it take about 6 months? You betcha. Yeah, a lot of trial and error because not everybody wants a lot of meetings.
But you didn't give up on it.
Nope.
You kept it going, and that's what matters. I think most people stop, or like the fire comes up, right? Oh, this job's running sideways. Like, we got to get out there. We got to fix it. And then you don't do a meeting that Wednesday, and then you meet the next Wednesday, and then something comes up again. Now you've missed 3, and then they go away, and then they bring back. And I think that's why most employees are like, man, meetings are so dumb. Like, when they're done consistently, they work.
And they're effective.
But when it's on and off and in and out, then no, it's not effective. It's not doing anything. You're trying to add the value, but because you're not consistent, it all falls apart.
Correct. And with that, the biggest key takeaway for me was you have to have the big picture always present. This is why we're doing it. And you may skip a meeting. It may be, hey, we're all on an out-of-town job. It's silly to have a meeting because, one person's going to be in town or, one crew. So there are times that are missed, yes, but especially in the inception of the idea of this meeting, if you have that consistently where things get missed, it's eventually going to get swept under the rug. So you have to be diligent to say, this is the big picture. This is why we're doing it. And if we don't actually put in the work, we're never going to reach the goal, just like anything else. It's really easy.
Okay. Within that, I mean, now we're holding meetings, and so and we're doing the trainings. I'm wondering how much of that have you delegated out the meetings to like your lead installers, and they need to teach to keep them sharp, as opposed to it's just me coming up with all of the stuff.
So what I do, and you're 100% correct. What I do is I create, let's say, the curriculum, and I'm speaking broadly. It's really simplistic. I'm creating the curriculum. So then the day before, the morning of, I'll go to the lead installers and say, hey, this is what we're going to talk about. These are what you're going to talk about. And they look at me and say, whoa, I didn't prep for that. And you should already know it. And if you don't, then we need to have a conversation. And that's okay. If you don't know it, we need to sharpen up. That's fine. I'm not perfect. Neither are you. But yeah, I'm starting to delegate to say, this is the topic that you're going to discuss. Well, I don't really remember it. It's like, well, you got 20 minutes. I go look it up, Bubba. And then that way it reemphasizes. It's like Einstein's theory. If you can't teach it to a 3-year-old, you don't know it clearly yourself, or you're a 4-year-old, or whatever his quote is. And so it's installing that. And on the path that I've kind of thought of and developed and created, eventually I'm not even going to be necessary for him at all. I'll just show up and sit back and have the lead installer or the crew manager teach it. And that way he's got it, he's sharp, he's teaching it, so they can all respect that, hey, we have someone to teach it, as well as they look up to him to say, hey, I want to go teach classes. And so it gives them more of an incentive to say, let's really learn this, let's buckle down.
Okay.
And then it brings the entire company together.
I think you should give them a week, Cody. I think you gotta get a week ahead, and like, you gotta stop throwing them under the bus, man. I ain't gonna lie. Come on, man.
It's cutthroat, baby. It's cutthroat in South Texas.
That is rough. We're gonna have a meeting right now, and you're talking on this. Wait, man, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you should know it.
Man, give them a week, dude. Let them know.
I'll the feedback box. We'll put that in the feedback box.
What about you have the apprentices step up and teach anything?
So the apprentices are the ones that are asked the questions first. So they are always put in the spotlight. I'd say, hey, nobody say anything, and I'll ask specific questions to certain apprentices.
Okay.
And then if they were to get it wrong, hey, I don't know, then it goes to all of the apprentices. Does anybody else know? And then they teach each other. And then if they don't know, then we go to the next level. Okay, tile setters. Now, which one of you knows? And then you just keep going up the ranks. So eventually you're building a pool of camaraderie of, hey, you don't know this, I do, let me help you. And then eventually they learn it each other. And then eventually you've got a whole system building itself, which is delegation to the extreme. I mean, that's ideal.
Yeah. Well, no, and I love it, right? Because we're making them have a team where they feel comfortable admitting that they don't know something, and they can go and ask for help. I think there's a lot of machismo within this industry of, I'm the best. I know everything. I don't need any help. I can do it on my
I've
own.
been doing it for 30 years this way. Yep.
And it's just not the case, man. If you need to ask for help, ask for help. Get, go. There's no shame. I love that I have reps on speed dial, and
Mm-hmm.
I am not afraid to make a phone call. I think one of my favorite phone calls is I called up one of my self-leveling reps, and I was like, hey, can I use a dehumidifier with your product? And he was like, wait, what? I was like, I gotta get the moisture out of the air. Like, can I put a dehumidifier in? And I was like, after it dries, like once it becomes walkable, not
Yeah.
while it's drying. I don't want to take it all out.
Correct.
He was like, I don't know. I gotta call tech, man. Like, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
And he got back to me. He was like, yeah, dude, that's fine. You can do that. But for me, it was I'm putting 60 bags in a house. It's like a gallon and a quarter of bags. So there's 75 gallons of water or something in somebody's 1,500 square foot house.
Yeah.
It's miserable to sleep in when it's that humid. And so I was trying to find a way to make it more comfortable for my client at night, but also me the next day. And if there's a little bit thicker spot, then I was able to pull that humidity out of the air. And if it's out of the air, then it releases faster. So it's like
Correct.
there's a bunch of things going on here, but it was like I wasn't afraid. Like, I'm not the scientist that created this stuff. I don't know how it works. I'm a
Exactly.
dummy. Teach me and let me learn. But I also was like, I knew I didn't know, so I delegated out the task. Like, hey, you're the professional. You go ask your team
Yep.
to figure this out for me and get back to me. And apparently, you can do it, folks. But go
And
talk to your own SLU representative and ask that question and get approval.
so, but like you said, you have to humble yourself to say, A, I don't know everything, and then B, I may not know this at all. So who are the people and the resources I can reach out to? Your podcast is phenomenal because it creates so many different resources and brings everything together. The NTCA, everything, everybody's about bringing resources. And that's one thing I started off saying, I don't know anything. I mean, I knew how to shovel sand. I was really good at it. And I also, I knew the dynamics of how things worked. I'm an apprentice extraordinaire. I would be probably the best apprentice you've ever had because that was my role. But I had to humble myself to say, I don't know how to set tile. I'm not a tile setter role, or I don't have these questions answered. I don't know about this product. So who are the resources that I can do?
Yeah.
And going back to the main topic, how can I delegate finding this knowledge to receive it? I'm delegating the fact checking out so that way I can be successful in the end.
And I think that's the most important thing. You have to be willing to, you said you're apprentice forever. I have to be a lifelong learner.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get set and think that I know more than anyone else.
Correct.
We've got to be open. We've got to let other people continuously feed us. And then we have to be willing to find a way to clearly communicate that out to let the team handle it. You're never going to be able to do it on your own. So, Cody, is there something we didn't touch on within this topic that you can think of that we should have touched on?
Really nothing necessarily. The only thing to add is just, like we talked about, be humble. Know that you don't know everything, and don't be scared to reach out. Everybody's been in the same boat. Everybody started from nothing. I mean, even from me, I had the perfect platform. I had the golden goose essentially laid out in front of me, but I still had to step back and say, I need to start from the ground up. I mean, don't be scared to reach out to people. And one of the first conventions that I went to, I came here and I said, it was year 2, so I was fresh in the business, and I asked, who I call the head honchos, and I said, hey, how can I bring value in the position that I am? And they broke it down to say, hey, I did that. Let's break it down. Humble yourself. Ask questions. Don't be scared. Don't be scared to not have the answer, because you're not going to all the time. And that's the challenging part, but that's also the fun part because you get to problem solve. So, but other than that, it's delegating. Be an effective communicator. If you don't know how, research it. You have to be able to communicate, you have to be able to delegate, and you have to be able to have a clear picture and concise to say, these are the goals, and we can get there together, and we can be successful together. We just all have to be on the same page.
That's it, folks. Done. That is what we have been here for this whole time. Thank you for summing it up, Cody. I don't even need to.
I'll send you my invoice.
Be willing to learn and then go do it, implement it, get help along the way. That's what all this is all about. I love it. I appreciate you stepping in and,
Yes,
and
sir.
sitting down with me at Tice and taking some time out of being able to go and network and meet people and find out what's new in our industry. Look, if you're
Hmm.
not here, folks, you need to be here.
Need to.
There's absolutely no excuse. There is way too much value from being at this show. You can't tell me that it's expensive or you can't afford to take the week off, because if you're coming to the show and you're not getting anything out of it, that's on you. You're doing it all wrong, and you should be able to 10x your investment every year at a minimum.
My father said for a long time, if I bring back one thing, one piece of anything that ends up paying for the trip, then I can use continuously for years and years and years. Well, I just paid for all of the trips forever. So then all these other trips I'm continuously learning, I'm just bringing more and more value to myself. You'd be silly not to. I mean,
Definitely, he gets it. He's on it. But that's also why he's not owner operator. And look, okay, I don't want people to take it the wrong way. If you want to be owner operator and stay small, that is cool.
more
If
power to
if
you.
if you want to grow, there's things you need to do and put in place and an attitude that you need to have that's going to accomplish it. But I don't think you're listening to the show if you don't want to even make owner operator world a better place. And if you decide to scale it, the things are going to be there for you to do it. It's better off to get it all figured out while you're the guy in a kayak in a small pond, as opposed to building the ocean liner that's got 150 employees, because you ain't spinning an ocean liner around on a dime like you can the kayak. It's going to take hours to pivot this thing around
Hmm.
and get it going a new direction. And so if your ducks aren't in a row, it's easier to do it when you're small as opposed to implementing these things when there's 150 employees. Uh, let's see, what can we do here? Like, subscribe, leave a review. Check us out on YouTube.
Follow,
Go follow. Yeah,
follow.
you gotta
Yep.
you gotta follow over there. We got 250 subscribers. I need 1,000. I know there's 1,000 of you that have listened to this show at least once. There's 1,000 subscribers on Apple. I don't have 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Just go over there, log into your Gmail, subscribe on YouTube for me. Do me a favor, please. Please, I beg you. You are my marketing team, okay? Like, yes, I just went full time. I admitted that, right? I don't have a huge budget. You're my marketers. I need you to go out. You promote this. If this show is helping you, please go tell other people in the
Hmm.
industry. Tell other business owners that are other contractors outside of this. Tell the guy that makes donuts, okay? That business is business. This show will help anybody running a business. I need your help to grow it. I'd very much appreciate it. You can check out patreon.com/Floor Academy. Even $5 a month goes a long way in helping me to continue to produce the content. I need your support now more than ever, apparently. But I do. The patrons that I have, I sincerely, I appreciate your support over the years. I love the sponsors. Um, you can check out flooracademypod.com. If you're struggling to figure out how much money you need to make, check out my spreadsheet, the business budgeting spreadsheet in the files section. It'll help you figure out your day rate. It also has an employee labor burden calculator that is super slick. We can go to the shop, pick up some swag. We got that "profit is not a dirty word" hoodie, so you want to sport that around. Just don't wear it in front of clients. But when you come to the conventions, that's the time to wear it. And mastermind groups. We just started a new one at the beginning of January on Thursday nights. I've got someone that I was trying to put together a Wednesday group. I still want to do that. I've got one on a waiting list. If you want to change your business and you want to gain accountability, actually externalize your problems instead of just process them internally as a small business owner, and communicate it out and process your information differently, and you want to stay focused on your goals, these are the groups for you to do that. We're meeting every other week. We're setting goals. We're keeping you focused on them. We're giving you the opportunity to just spew everything that's been going on within your life and get it out to other people that understand and are probably going through the same thing,
Hmm.
which is why we call it business therapy mastermind groups. We're getting a little bit of therapy. We're getting some accountability. We're masterminding how to move businesses forward. They're absolutely amazing. Check that out. There's a link for on the page. There's a tab. Just click the mastermind groups.
Well, and I'll squeeze in just real quick. Well, that's one thing I love. It's business people helping business people. You can help. I don't boast saying help your competitor necessarily, but if you help the industry and each part of the industry in itself, the industry rises together. everybody rises together. Don't be scared to help somebody. I mean, again, we've all been in the same boat. Don't be scared to give a little help to say, hey, have you thought about
Definitely.
this? Are you willing to do this? If not, hey, that's on you, Bubba. But if you're willing to do this, you can grow. And as we all grow together, the industry grows in and of itself. And
Yes.
that's perfect.
And it's the other beautiful part, last part of it. It's not all tile guys, it's not all wood guys, it's not all retailers. You're getting a mix, because if I put 5 tile guys in a group, all you're going to do is talk about TISA and A standards and ANSI standards, and I don't want to hear it. That's not what we're there for. I love that you can dork out on that level. I really do. All right.
That's ANSI committee.
I need me some EJ 171 in my life every once in a while, right? Let's silicone our corners and changes the plane. But we can't focus there. That's not what we're there for. And so you're going to get perspective from some hardwood guys. You're going to get perspective from carpet guys, from a retailer. You're going to learn different segments of the industry and how they deal with the problems. And you can start implementing this into your business so that you're more successful within your segment, or you can expand into another segment.
Absolutely.
That's all I've got on that. I was just at the International Surface event in Las Vegas. I'm trying to read this ad, but I'm at this. We're recording it live. It's coming out after the fact. I don't know which verbiage to use. So we're here, but essentially what we want you to do is, whether you were at the event or if you missed it, like, unfortunately, I'm sorry, you missed out on a great time. Tice has put together a lookbook, and so it is covering over 100 products that were featured at the show. You can access that now at intlsurfaceevent.com/lookbook, LOOKVOOK. That, or I have it in the show notes. Go click on the link. Go check it out. It helps me out. It helps them out. You can see what you missed at the show and why you want to be here.
Should be here. Need to be here.
Definitely. Other than that, I think that's it for this week, folks. We will catch you all next week.